Well, good morning. Let me hope that's a good morning. Let me check my microphone here.
Yeah, okay, that's probably better, I hope. Let's make sure here. Better to be sure than assume, right? Okay. So I'm thinking that's looking good. So if you're hearing with me today, uh, say something in the chat so I know you're with me. I'm going to test this out myself from my own YouTube channel. I'm going to say hello from YouTube's, and I'm going to see if that is able to come up on the screen. I'm just doing a quick little thing here, and look at that. Here we go. Hello from the YouTubes. So I'm obviously live. So let's get started. And if you're viewing this after the fact, hey, good for you. So just wanted to do a quick little video here, and hey, let's make this more festive, huh? How about we just add some? Oh, that's gaudy. Let's do that. There you go. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Anyway, I wanted to do a quick little video and explain more about why I'm doing some fasting this year and why I'm doing the crazy thing of inviting people to do it with me, which is a little unusual. I get that, but specifically, um, why why right now and why this is happening. So every year our church does a series of fasts, typically throughout the year, and January tends to be the one that is kind of a lot of meaning for me, as it's a good time to figure out what I'm going to do with the year and that sort of thing, and figure out what direction God wants me to take for the year. And so last year, I'm going to get into this a little bit about what I discovered last year in more detail on a live that's going to come up here in the next day or so. But I will do that soon. But anyway, I wanted to explain more about some of the reasons why fasting right now. And just get to that. I'm not going to allow myself to get overly distracted. There's so much I want to talk about. And I'm trying to keep it to just one video per topic per day, kind of thing, and we'll see how I do with that. But anyway, um, some things were revealed to me last year about the parable of the talents, and so I'll talk a little bit more about that in here in a little bit. But um, by and large, I found that there are tie-ins that I never saw before with what God was trying to tell me about how business should be run and that sort of thing. And so it was a very, um, uh, well, it was just fascinating to 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 find that out. I guess you could say, and very convicting at the same time. And so I, yeah, I just I felt it was necessary for me to go deeper with fasting, and I have done that. And then also finding out things about being a Christian business owner and taking some looks at the things that are going on around the business world, and especially in the world that I'm living a lot in these days, in terms of um, kind of online marketing, and then that's that sort of thing that's becoming very necessary if you are a digital entrepreneur like myself. Uh, Digital entrepreneur, just to define this, is someone who conducts business in a digital space pretty much exclusively, which is what I pretty much do. And so, as I've transitioned away from a lot of the consulting work that I've done over the years and the travel and things like that, I now operate right here in my messy space. So, um, that is it. That's just a little bit of why I felt the need to um, kind of reach out and do that, is because I think there's a lot of things going on that are, I don't want to say anti-Christian. I don't want to just be overly dramatic here, but let's just say that there are a lot of things that don't fit in with a Christian philosophy when it comes to running a business. And a lot of the groups that are out there that are even for, you know, these faith oriented, tends to be overly broad and tends to do things that are, you know, uh, kind of woo woo, I guess is the way I would describe it, and things that don't match up with any kind of biblical purpose. And so I wanted to have a time of discovery of of not only myself, what I want to do with the year, um, but also of bigger direction for not only myself, but for others as well. And I'm going to get into a little bit about that in a few moments. But first off, let's define a few things because I think this is really important to know. And first off, what is fasting? So this means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I will admit that, in my life, I have struggled defining this as well. But as I was spending some time this morning, it came to me that the way I can define fasting is purposeful discomfort. In other words, you're not really trying to be. And what then now that I'm going to reframe that. I'll just wind that back a second and have myself a little bit more coffee because I'm going to be giving this up. Oh, delicious bean juice. Purposeful discomfort, meaning that you are putting yourself into a uncomfortable situation on purpose for the reasons of wanting to grow. So when it comes to fasting, what we're doing is we're choosing something to give up. And that can be a lot of different things. For some, it will just be giving up coffee for 10 days or so, and fasting that. For some, and this will make things difficult for some of us, it'll be fasting from like social media, things like that. And we'll get to that soon. Some methods we can get around that a little bit, and I'll still be able to provide some community support even without social media involvement, because I know that's becoming more and more important to people, and that's a good thing. But for this, simplicity is king, so we're just going to do it this way. But for other things, you might give up on fasting. A lot of people think of food, and that actually is very appropriate. And that's the biblical example has been food. And so some people will just say, actually, I think one of the most common is to do what's called a Daniel fast, where you are giving up meat and things like that, and only eating vegetables and a few grains, but limiting that as well. And you're allowing your body to be cleansed that way, but it's also more of a discipline. Some people will just fast specific things. We'll get into a lot more of these strategies soon as we get closer to the fast, which I just realized I need to put up on the screen. N is fast. And if I learn how to type, oh, when is the fast? January 10th to the 20th. Very important to know that because that helps you choose a strategy as well. And as far as what that means for the fasting, it kind of lets you kind of key in on what you want to do with it. For us, for example, what we're probably going to be doing is um, spending a few days ramping down, which is something I definitely recommend. Doing water only for 7 days, and then having a period of ramping back up that's a little slower. So 1 to 2 days down, 7 days of water only, and then back up. That's what I'm thinking about doing. So you can do a fast that's like that, water only. Um, I don't recommend starting with that. That's something that is very intensive, and for all these kinds of things, any kind of adjustments you're making to your diet or your life in general, really, you probably should consider consulting a professional. And we are actually, I'm talking to one such professional myself here in an hour or so, and hopefully we'll be hearing more about that and some guidance there and some of the benefits of fasting and that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But basically, the why of this is that you are actually taking something away from yourself. You're putting yourself into discomfort on purpose so that you can grow out of that. So what that means for why food, there's a lot of reasons. There are a boatload of reasons that become very clear, especially when you start doing it. And the primary thing I would say is that when you are depriving yourself of something, your body is aware of it and your body reminds you of it. And so the more you're reminded of it, the more you're reminded to do things like pray and rely on God's guidance instead of your own strength. That exercise in and of itself is something that is not just a good reminder. The reminders are good. Walking through a process like that is actual introducing a bigger reality than you might previously have. And so that actually has some impacts on your life in a broader sense, not just for a specific time. So that in a nutshell, that's what fasting is. So it's up to you to determine what your level is. So some people, like I said, might just go water only, and they're just going to do this as a somewhat extreme. I guess I don't get much more extreme than just water only, right? But it's a very focused time, and yeah, some people will just do like giving up sugar or giving up coffee. Whatever your level is, my challenge to you is to have something that is uncomfortable. One of the things I hear a lot of is um, things like, I can't do that right now, or I don't think I could do that. That's I hear those kind of things a lot, and honestly, I used to say things like that myself, and that's why I think starting with smaller things first, is important. But you want to do it in such a way that you're challenging yourself at the same time. And so this will look different for the single mom than it will for the um, you know, somewhat jolly middle-aged uh, you know, entrepreneur guy. It'll look different for each person. But we don't want to hide behind excuses. We want to actually make this a time where we are stepping out in faith and knowing that we're going to be relying on God. And the other thing I'm going to say about this really quick, I'm going to do more about this in the coming days, but that doesn't mean that what you want to be doing right now is going crazy and eating a bunch of stuff that you won't be able to eat in a while, that sort of thing. And um, it's maybe enjoying certain things, yes, but you don't want to go crazy with it now because that makes it harder to give up down the road. And so you want to start pacing yourself for whatever you're going to be giving up. So it's not, well, let me introduce this concept. And that is that you won't rise to the occasion. You'll only rise to your level of preparedness. And this goes with fasting very much so. It is not something where you have this, like, we have this romantic notion that we're somehow going to be rewarded for making it harder on ourselves so we can suffer more. And that is not what fasting is all about. Fasting is not about suffering. That's not what it's about. It's about purposeful discomfort. There's a very big difference here. So a lot of people will have this notion of like, oh gosh, I'm going to be giving this up for 7 days. I better get it all in now and get it out of my system. That's not how we work. That's and certainly not how our body works. I'll tell you that from personal experience. I was actually going through some notes from a fast sabbatical, a very brief fasting sabbatical I took a couple of years ago, and even though I knew better, I was driving there and decided to stop off at a Sonic for some cheeseburger and all this kind of stuff that I knew I wouldn't be able to have anymore of because I was doing water only. And so I jumped right into that, and yeah, that didn't go well. That was overly miserable. When you're, we can again, we'll talk about this more, but the basic concept here is that you do want to challenge yourself, but don't do so in such a way that you will not be able to do it. You don't want to make it so that you're just going to sabotage yourself and give up. Do it in such a way that actually makes sense for your level of preparedness. Okay. Uh, Now, a couple of things. Why am I doing this? As in what's the catch? DJ, why this is a lot of effort. Yes, this is a lot of effort. But I will tell you that my hope in all of this is that I can find more of how I'll be able to serve in the coming year. And it's sort of like Moses walking out into the Red Sea. We think about the whole Charlton Heston thing, and the staff down and it parts and all that kind of stuff. And I think better picture of this is more likely like Moses getting out into the water and then it parting, right? There's a walking into it and walking in faith and walking, and there's some more we can describe about that. But the honest truth for me is that I don't want to assume I know. But my heart in 2021 is to transition to serving Christians who want to be more entrepreneurial. I don't know what that looks like yet. It could look like coaching. It could look like training programs, or my prevailing thought right now is masterminds and things like that. But I don't know what it looks like because I don't know enough about the challenges that people have. I know a lot about my challenges, and I know a lot about the things that I've overcome and the ways I've done it. And I'm happy to teach all that. But if I don't know the challenges that people are having, then it's I could be way off track. And so in walking through this is a way that I can give my time and serve you directly here, for a pretty brief period of time. But in the midst of that, discover more about how I can go deeper in. And so that's my hope with all this, is that I can give you my time, efforts, and focus for a little more than 10 days. I mean, the actual fast again is from January 10th to January 20th, but there's going to be time before and after that I'm going to be really focused in on serving all of you as deeply as I can and answering your questions, and doing everything I can to bring you to a point of understanding. So that is the why I'm doing this. To be upfront, my intention is not to pitch any kind of specific program or anything like that. I don't have anything like that in mind quite yet. I will want to discover if that's something that I should do. That's a very big difference there. So I don't want you to be surprised by any of that. I don't want this, like the Facebook group, for example, I don't want that to be something where this is being used for pitching your thing or whatever. I want it to be more of like a place where we can uh, support each other in this fast. And so that's why the group itself will be very temporary. It'll be there for the period of fast, a little bit afterwards, and then I'll be archiving the group, shutting it down, so that you'll have access to the group, but it won't be live anymore. You won't be able to post anything new in it, that sort of thing. So kind of both a security measure and making sure that we're very specific about our purpose. So by the way, that Facebook is up now. It's very much excuse the dust kind of thing. So facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 January, or JAN, like Jan. That's the link. It's up on the screen. If for some reason you're listening to me and not watching me right now, facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 Jan. That's the link for the group. So join us in there, and we will talk more in depth. My intention is to go live like this, where this on multiple channels. I'm on YouTube. I'm on 3 different Facebook things right now. I'm actually in the group, and on my personal page, and on my coaching page, all at the same time. I'll probably add Twitter in as we go along, but that's the beauty of this particular program, is we'll be able to do that. We'll also be having some people on as we go along. I'm going to be inviting some people to be joining us during the fasting period to talk to us as well, and so we'll have a lot of that. We'll also be using Zoom for a lot of these, and so I am in the process of organizing a better mechanism for keeping up on communication. But right now, this is the first time running it. It's going to be a little little rough. And so we're just going to kind of keep it as simple as we possibly can for this first run. And if we do this again, we'll expand it. So, yeah, absolutely. So, and again, if you're just joining, we're talking why fasting, why now? And so let's continue on with that part of the discussion. So, let me talk a little bit about the parable of the talents and why this has haunted me for easily the last 5 years. There's some things that I noticed about this parable that Jesus taught. I want to say at least 5 or 6 years ago now. I think now that I'm thinking about it, and there were implications there that were very. It was just seemed overly harsh. And what I mean by that is just to refresh your memory, if you don't know what I'm talking about with the parable of the talents, and that is that there were three servants or slaves that were given a talent, which is about a couple of years worth of wages. It to some varying degree, but basically a lot of money with the instruction to manage it. And so then there was the master said he was going away, manage these finances. I expect to see a return on my investment when I'm back, that sort of thing. So the first servant was given 5 talents. Pretty big deal. The second talent was given 2 talents. Also a pretty big deal. But one servant was given 1 talent. Also a big deal. So what happens is that the servant comes back, or sorry, the master comes back, and you have a couple different results. The person that was given 5 talents multiplied his, so it's now 10 talents. So he was doubled the investment, which we should all aspire to, right? So he doubles the investment, and the master says, "Awesome, well done, good and faithful servant." The second servant was given 2 and now has 4 talents because he also did, and so he was also said, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Now the thing that caught me a couple years ago was just how harshly the servant with 1 talent was was treated. It wasn't just okay, you didn't do this right. You could have done this better. Here's some ways to improve. The 1 talent servant or slave is what I would say had a different mentality, and he buried it into the ground because he felt like the master wasn't doing anything, didn't deserve what he had basically, and didn't deserve the efforts of the slave to make money for him. It's I knew you were a hard man that sows where you do not reap, or reaps where you do not sow. Sorry. And so what happens to this servant, depending on what translation you read, basically is tossed out into some say hell, some say outside the city, banished, punished, prison, um, whatever you want to think of. Basically, not just saying, "Oh yeah, you could have done this better, and here's some ways to improve." No, it was no, you knew exactly what to do, and you're evil. Get out. So some things about this struck me last year. I mean, obviously, we don't want to be the 1 talent slave. We don't want to be that. So why the other 2? Why wasn't it just 2 servants and one has a good result and the other has this buried result? Why not? Why were there 3 in the example, and why were they given different levels? Some interesting things about that. One is that I noticed that the servant that was given 2 talents to manage, it says it also did what the 5 talent um, servant did, which tells me that there's some things to learn there. There's some mentoring that was happening there, or at the very least, the 2 talent person was given less to manage because they weren't ready for it yet, but they wanted to be. So they did what they saw the other person doing. So what this has set up as a distinction in my mind is that there are we know instinctively that there are varying levels to which people are prepared for business and life and that things like that. But what struck me was uh, another verse. This is actually Ecclesiastes 11, 1 through 6 in the NIV, and I'll try and put this up on the screen next time. But it says, "Ship your grain across the sea. After many days, you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land." So the question is again, why fasting? Why now? That was the other thing that struck me is that we are instructed. The wisdom we're given is that we need to have these multiple streams of income or ventures that we're supposed to be doing. This is what we were instructed to do. We're not instructed to just go have a single job and do that, and that's good enough. That's not what the wisdom of the Bible says. The wisdom of the Bible says that, as the verse continues, if clouds are full of water, they pour rain on the earth. Whether a tree falls to the south or the north, or the place where it falls, there it will lie. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the cloud will not reap. That again. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. In other words, if you're always looking for what's happening right now, you will probably miss a couple of key things here. Um, and so if you yeah, this is just awesome wisdom. One of those verses you can't just you're lost in how awesome it is and how relevant it is even today. As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. So when I saw that and thought again about the parable of the talents, I thought, okay, it's good to be diverse. In fact, as Matt is saying here, diversify, and that's actually exactly right. You want to be much more diverse in your not just in your income, but in your way of thinking. And that's one of the keys that I saw with the difference between the 5 talent, what I call the 5 talent steward, and the 2 talent servant. So the 2 talent servant was given what he could manage, and the 5 talent steward was given what he could manage. Both did well, but what I see as a difference is likely the 5 talent servant was not the one doing all the work. He put his interests into various ventures and let them work for him. And that's a very big key thing. And that's what I think a lot of us should be striving towards, instead of us being the one doing all the efforts, putting our efforts into ventures that pay off later. Some people call this passive income, and that's true. That's basically what it is. But if you put a purpose behind that and a why behind that, I think it's much bigger of a deal. And so my goal in life is to leave the world better than I found it. Now, this is interesting because, as many of you that are watching that know me know that I don't have kids, and that's not it's not in our plan to have children. So I'm sowing other types of things into the world. And one of the things that struck me in reviewing notes, that I was what I was doing the last few days, I've been reviewing um, prior like planners and stuff like that from years past, and I've been struck by how often a theme came up of, you know, you need to be doing this in such a way that is enabling others to do it after you. And so I need to be investing in other words. And so that's a theme that really struck me a lot, is that I need to be investing in other entrepreneurs and other people that want to diversify what they're doing. And so that is precisely what I want to do. The only problem is I don't feel like I'm an authority in that space. I feel like I'm an authority in that. And so I've held back for the better part of a year and a half, in doing so. But like I said, this has been just absolutely haunting me. It's like I cannot let it go. Like literally to the point of well, almost pain sometimes, or not being able to sleep and that sort of thing. And I know that um yeah, like let me put this up on the screen here. So like Matt says here, you don't have to have kids to still leave a legacy, and that's absolutely right. In fact, I think the biggest part for me is realizing that also along with that, I don't have to have the skill sets to be able to teach. And what that means is one of my kind of superpowers, if you will, is connecting people. And so that's what I'm hoping to do is connect people in this group, connect people during this process, and not be the only expert speaking. Just be the facilitator, the coach. The guy that's like pointing out things, but not necessarily the authority that's teaching. So that's releasing myself of that has been a real blessing, and so that is my hope. So once again, I wanted to go over this just really quickly. Um, the ways you can fast is really up to you, and that really is um, what you want to do. So that's something to be thinking about and praying about right now, and looking at how you want to do that, starting on the 10th or around that time. If you want to make a decision later and just do a very brief fast, that's actually one of the first ways I did a fast. It was just um, about 3 or 4 days of just juice, just vegetable juice. I don't think it was just vegetable. I think it was just like fruits and vegetables, but just the juice. That's very valid and very actually very good for you, by the way. um, but again, I'm not a medical professional. I don't pretend to be one. I can only tell you about what has worked for me in the past, but I can tell you that the body does um, wonderful things when you fast. I can attest to this. Um, and there's a lot of things about this too. Like um, the question has often comes up with this sort of thing. How do I know this if this is for me? How do I know if this is the right process for me to be taken? And this is hard to answer because I don't actually know. I don't know you. I don't want to make these decisions for you, but I can tell you what has uh, transpired in my life is that there's lots of reasons to fast, and they're all pretty much valid. There's a cleansing that goes on when you fast, both of mind and body. Which, by the way, we'll talk about this later in the week, but there's a lot of things that come with that too. A lot of pain, headaches, those kind of things do occur. You know, it's actually a kind of a healthy thing to go to walk through that, and we'll talk more about it soon. But um, walking in that is, it can be hard for people. So just doing things that are appropriate for your level, I guess, is the things. But as far as the process of fasting, yeah, it's going to be right for you at some level. It's always going to be good to have that purposeful discomfort, like I was talking about, to actually put yourself into that situation. Now, in terms of our specific focus, which is around that invest in, 7 ventures, yes, even 8, for you do not know what disaster will come upon the land. Gosh, that sounds a lot like a warning for 2021, if I've ever heard one. It was kind of something that was on my mind in 2020, and look what happened. If we think we're going to be out of the woods and everything's going to be fine just because of a vaccine or whatever, um, we're not we're not learning anything. And so this is right for you if you have been awoken to this and are saying, okay, I probably need to do something, I just don't know what. And so this will be for anyone who wants to discover ways they can do more, and have that mentality first. As far as tactics, it's a 10-day fast. We're not going to get too deep into tactics, okay? It's just not going to happen that way. But what we want to do is solidify your reasons why. And to me, a period of fasting, first of the year, seeking God in this, and really, really asking the question, okay, wow, okay, God, what do you want from me? and and walking in that and being purposeful about that is a way better first step than stepping into all the various things. One of the things we're going to talk about is a phenomenon that I call being a squirrelpreneur. And it is basically where you see a squirrel and your focus shifts. And I've noticed that about myself in the last few years. And the reason why, if I can nail it down, is simply something broken in my mentality about why I approach things. If I have this attitude of, you know what, I just need to figure out what's going to work for me, there's always something that's going to work for me. And there's lots of different ways. So as a squirrelpreneur, I have bought into training program after training program after training program without connecting fully with the why I'm doing things. And so that is what I really want to focus in on during the fast from January 10th to the 20th is, okay, let's get really honed in on exactly what we want to do as far as what God wants us to do and what kind of attitude we should have about our life and our finances before we ever talk about strategies. And we can connect about strategies down the road. But first, we need to have a really good, solid understanding of like Matt was saying, our legacy. Very important stuff. And so that's going to be our big focus. So really quick again, that Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 January. And next time I'm going to say more about 11 talents and what that was. Just to give you a preview of that, there was something else very significant about the parable of talents, and that was that the 1 talent slave that was thrown out, the instruction was to take that 1 talent and give it not to the 2 talent, well, actually now 4 talent servant, but to give it to the person with 10 talents, the steward. So the steward became the 11 talent steward. So now responsible for growing 11 talents. The thing that really struck me when I read this last year during my fasting was that the master didn't take it all back. The master left it right where it sat. He celebrated, but he didn't take it all back. The expectation was probably that there was more to come, that the work was to continue. That means a lot for us from a financial standpoint, but also from a kind of a more of a spiritual standpoint as well. What kind of things have you been given, and given with the knowledge that you are responsible to grow that. You're responsible to do more with that. And so identifying what that looks like in your life is what I'm hoping to be a priority. So join the Facebook group. I'll be doing some more work on that today and making that a little prettier and more significant. There are some questions to answer. It's a private group, so I don't want everybody just joining. There are entry criteria, and I will be reviewing those. My sister and I will both be reviewing those. And so that's very important. So what should you do next? Join that group and share, help spread the word. We are going to be at some point locking down entry into the group, I think. We'll kind of play that by ear. And as far as that goes, also as far as the Facebook only thing, we're working on that. There's another platform that I'm evaluating whether it's going to be good. But really what I want to know first is if there are enough people to justify branching out. And so the easiest way to determine that was to stand up a Facebook group and say, okay, how many people are going to be interested if I start this process? And so really what it comes down to is I'm only going to go at a level of interest. And so if there's only 4 people in the group, I'm not going to do quite as much, let's be honest. But if there are 400 or 4,000 people in the group, well, we're going to put a little bit more effort into that. So I do hope you join us. Again, it's absolutely free. I didn't mention that before, but there's no expectation of cost of any kind with this. That's not what we're doing here. This is just kind of a way to, like I said, for me to experience this along with you, see what kind of things you're struggling with, because frankly, it makes me more confident about the direction that I'm heading. So, as a person that's been an IT consultant for over 20 years, this is a big deal for me too. So, this is just as scary and daunting as it is, I'm sure, for a lot of you. So, just know I'm in this with you. And if there's anything I can do, any questions I can answer for you, do not hesitate to reach out to me. If you're viewing this video, you have a method of doing that. So feel free to do so. I'll be reviewing messages sometime later this afternoon, and then again tomorrow. I haven't scheduled this yet, but I'll be going live again tomorrow, and so you'll have a chance to ask me any questions you have about fasting in general, about the group, all these kind of things. And so hope to see you then. Until then, if anybody has any questions that are out there right now, you can ask those real quick, but I'm going to need to get off here in about 2 minutes. And so uh, let's go through and review, make sure all my notes are good. Looks good to me. So join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 Jan. Awesome. Hope to see you in there. And overall, just have a blessed and awesome day. I'm really genuinely looking forward to this. It's kind of weird to say I'm looking forward to, only having water for several days, but the more I've done this, and the more I've seen the blessings out of doing these things, the more I want to share. And so I am actually looking forward to this a great deal. And so hope to see you in the Facebook group and out there in general. Yeah. So have a good and blessed day, and we'll see you soon.